Hello engineering students, here is my attempt to help you understand the if-else commands inside RobotC. This is something that, just remember, is not exclusive to RobotC. Pretty much anything has its if-else commands. Microsoft Excel has its if-else commands along with many other programming languages. Here is a very simple if-else structure within a while loop. So we just talked about while loops, and a while loop is just a way to have a program repeat indefinitely or repeat if a certain condition is met. So for example, I just put in a 1 equals 1, so that condition is always true, meaning that will always run, it will always loop. So what it's going to do is it's going to look and it's going to see that we have an if and then an else. So it automatically sees, the program sees that there is an if-else structure in here. Very similar, like a while loop, right after the if is going to be a condition. So this is a condition, and it's going to check to see if that condition is true. If that condition is true, then it will run whatever code is inside that if curly braces. If that condition is false, it's going to do just the opposite, and it's going to run the else. Here's the biggest thing that I see, or the biggest mistake, common mistake I see with people, is that they place a condition with the else. It's very simple. If, else. If it's not this, it has to be the else. So if it is not, the condition here is not true, it has to be the else. It doesn't need a condition because it's just working off the opposite of the limit switch. So think of it as it automatically knows. So if it looks at this and says, all right, the sensor value or the limit switch is 0, it automatically is going to run the else. So in this program, if the limit switch is 1, it will start the motor. If it's not 1, it goes to the else and it will stop the motor. So as you turn this program on, it's going to continually, like right away if you just turn it on, you don't touch your test bed, it is going to continually look and see 1 equals 1. All right, I'm going to continually loop this program. So it'll look at line 33 and it'll say, all right, the limit switch is not 1, so it's automatically going to jump to the else because these two are linked. So it jumps to line 38, that else, and it's going to go stop the motor because it reads this else as true, or because it's the false condition of this. So it's going to stop the motor. As soon as you press that limit switch, though, it's going to read that this is true, and it's going to start the motor. Now, RobotC, or programming generally, is only good at making a binary decision. So what that means is it can't make multiple decisions at a time. It has to break things into groups. So for us as humans, we can make multiple decisions at a time. If we have 4 different types of fruits in front of us, we have a banana, an orange, an apple, and some grapes, we can make a decision, okay, which one do we want? And we can look at all 4. Unfortunately for programming, it can only look at 2 at a time. So if you want it to make more than one decision, what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to nest your if-else statements. So for example, if I wanted the start motor or stop motor, so I'm saying the left motor, if I wanted to be controlled by more than just the limit switch, say I wanted it to also be controlled by the bump switch, then it can't make that decision because those are 2 different sensors with 2 different decisions. A limit switch can be on or off, the bump switch can be on or off. So that's 4 total decisions right there. Well, it can only make 2 at a time. So in that case, what we want to do is we want to kind of separate it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of my stop motor here. So first they'll say, all right, if the limit switch equals 1, stop the motor. Else, well, if it's not looking at the limit switch, we can also have it look at the bump switch. So I'll type in an if, and I'm going to say my sensor value, and let's go bump switch equals 1. Then, if we want this to also be controlled by the bump switch and also run, then at this point we would want it to start the motor. So we would have it start the left motor, and I'm just placing an arbitrary value of 63. We have that, or else it would just be the opposite. We would want it to stop that motor. I'm screwing up here a little bit with my syntax. So this is an open brace, There we go. And then I'm just going to stop the motor. And I always like to check my syntax, make sure everything is correct. So if I look here, I have my task main, I have my if here, I have my else here, I have my if, my else, and I just need one more for my while. Somehow my while got deleted, or I deleted it. So now everything's lined up. So if we look at this program, if the sensor value of the limit switch equals 1, start the motor. Else, if we wanted it also to be controlled by the bump switch, it'll look at the bump switch right away and say, okay, is that equal to 1? Oh, no, it's not, so let's stop the motor. But if it also is equal to 1, then we start the motor. So you can see here how I have two different decisions. It'll first look at one, then it'll look at the other. Once again, this is going to be very important for your marble sorter when you have to determine, because you have to make, your program has to make technically 4 decisions. It has 4 different marbles. So you might have to break that into multiple categories. So this is very simple. Like I say, please tab over on these so you can see how they work. You can line up your curly braces. So I got an extra line right here. I can get rid of that extra line, and I can delete that over there. So I have this all set up. I have my task main curly brace, I have my while curly brace, and then I have my if, my else, my if here, my else right there. And remember, as you're running this, you can always go to Robot and compile the code and see if any errors show up. And if there's an error here, so for example, I'll give an example of an error. Say I delete a curly brace, I go Robot compile code, it gives me 2 errors. And I just read right here. So it says there's an error at line 30 and line 49. You always want to correct your errors in succession. So first 30. It says unmatched left brace for this curly bracket. So I go, okay. It's saying that there's an unmatched brace for this one. Well, I say, okay, do I have it all matched up? Well, that's matched up. Do I have one matched up with my while? I follow straight down. I say, no, I don't. So I just go ahead. I add in my curly brace, I can tab it over, and I can try to compile my program again, and my errors go away. So you can always use that little debugger window down here to try to figure out your errors. It's a lot quicker than asking a teacher, asking someone else for help. You're much more self-sufficient. So once again, quick way for a program to make decisions. Like I said, this is the easiest thing about programming and what you have to understand to fully grasp the concepts. So thank you very much. Once again, ask your teachers if you have questions or you need further guidance.